Hello, my name is Owe Forsberg here at IDCON. Today I'd like to talk about how important it is to actually start with the basics when you're doing your PM program. What we see in many places today, of course, there's a lot of focus on technology, analysis, the IoT, connectivity, AI and machine learning. And of course, that's a good thing here going in the long run and being strategic. But I think the focus should be on the basics first. A lot of times we putting sensors on there and the machines, we see that's going on, and it's not really getting the benefits because it's really telling us, and this is actually what I heard from a plant that I was in, that, well, the results was we need to clean the equipment better, we need to lubricate better, and we need to plan and schedule our work better. It's just saying, before you're actually starting to put or invest in these sensors and machine learning, it's important to get your equipment in good condition, because otherwise it's just going to tell you to repair it right away or do corrective maintenance. So I think the strategic advantage when you're starting to do machine learning in IoT is that you're going to see very small signals or process data that actually you can interpret and say, we'll have a problem going on here, so we actually can do corrective maintenance early, so we don't interrupt the production. Or you actually will give feedback and say, well, I need to do preventive maintenance or prevention, really, and essential care in a better way, so you extend the life of the equipment. So those are the things that we want to learn from machine learning system. Let me define a little bit and saying, well, what is preventive maintenance according to our definition? I usually talk about essential care, which is really a life extension of the equipment, preventing failures. Then you have fixed time maintenance, and in most cases you're not going to know the life of equipment or a component, so that's really not a good strategy in most cases. And then you have condition monitoring, and you can do that objectively by measuring, taking vibration readings, but you can also do it subjectively and saying we're going to just look, feel, and smell. And when you do that, you actually can find a lot of issues that you're going to see without really doing all the analysis. And I'll show you some examples here. The essential care part is important because these are things that you're going to avoid doing corrective maintenance. So if you do them right, you're really not going to pick up a lot of problems when you do your objective measurements. And again, remember the idea of condition monitoring is to find the failures early enough that we can actually plan a schedule and not interrupt the output of the process. Let's show some examples of it. This is kind of what I see when I'm out in different plants. You see leaks, water leaks. The water gets into the oil, you ruin the bearings, the water gets into the motor, the electrical connections, you get shorts, you get corrosion. The pulp is leaking from a pump here, thus causing corrosion on the base and all the equipment around it. Plus, if things are leaking, it's very difficult to see if there's some other problem going on or actually identify a small leak that's starting somewhere if you got process liquids everywhere. More leaks, here's the seal water leaking, actually corroding the base, so now we need to fix that. The pulp leaking, corroding all the electrical equipment, and maybe even causing some safety issues in terms of the electrical system there. Again, here's another electrical issue. It's been leaking down on this drive, corroding the ground strap, so that can cause a safety incident if you don't have a good ground, if something happened. Also corrosion in general. You see a big butterfly valve there in front of a cooling tower. We try to close that up. Well, it's not working. I think if we just put a little bit of a coating or paint on that, maintain that over a few years, that valve's going to last for another 10 years. But now we have to change it out because the gears is already rusted up. We can't open it up. More simple things that you can find. Here's two hydraulic units, and you can see the coolers or heat exchangers are actually fouled. So in both cases, these are shutting down because of high temperature, and they've been running that for a long time. And what we notice, of course, we're damaging the valve, we increase the wear in the pumps because the oil viscosity goes down. We're damaging O-rings and gaskets because of the heat load that they get. So these are things that are going to decrease the life of your equipment. I think also over time that you break down the hydraulic oil faster if your temperature is very high. Motors is another one that's usually fouled, and you can see dust and product on top of them. And you see the inlet for the fan there is actually clogged up. That motor is overheating, and a lot of times, we'll see the winding the insulation going bad and shorting the motor out, or we overheat the bearings, spit out the grease, and then we have to change the bearings. More examples. Here is oil level. Simple thing to check. In this case, it's already below the marking on to say that it's the lowest level. But if you look closer on that oil, you can see there's water in there, and plus it's very dark. So it looks like there's something wrong there in the water in the oil, and when we looked in the gearbox, there was water in there. So these are things that are going to damage your bearings and the gears and the seals in there, of course. More example, and when it comes to lubrication, which is part of your prevention, in this case to the left there, you see a tank. It's actually new oil that they pump it from drums, and it's actually standing open out there in the shed. So now you're getting moisture, you're getting dust in there. So the number one problem with the lubrication many times is to keep it clean. Another example is you have a drum out in the plant there in the middle, and you're getting dust and moisture in the gear because you have no caps on there and it's not sealed. Versus to the right there, you see a nice lubrication cart with filters, caps on the hoses, and so very nice way of kind of keeping everything nice and clean when you're actually adding or changing oil. More examples of the equipment condition that you need to take care of. We're taking some readings here, and I think one is 0.26 inch per second, so on the borderline, and one is 0.77, which is really high vibration level, inch per second. So that needs to be taken care of, because otherwise you're going to break down bearings and seals and gears in there over time. Another one is the storage of spare parts. So in this case, especially a rebuild part or bulky part that you store maybe out in an open area. In this case, we have some big hydraulic cylinders. They're sitting out there, they're being rebuilt. There's no caps on the oil and inlet and outlet. So you're getting dust in there, and that's not what you want in a hydraulic system where you have tolerance of 5 microns or better. Another one I see a lot is electrical equipment sitting out in the switchgear or in the open, getting dust on it. So this breaker is probably not going to be that good of a shape if there's a lot of dust on it when you try to use it. So to summarize what you need to do to focus on the basics, develop your preventive maintenance program, and you should be using basic essential care, which is preventive measures, and doing subjective inspections, because they are very useful if you do it right. Whatever you find, you need to execute that, correct the equipment problem, define your priority system so you work on the things that are important first, and manage your backlog and saying things cannot sit around for too long, because we need to correct the problems before they actually cause some additional problems or grow in the extent, so to speak. So give us a call if you need some help. Focus on the basics. That's what we're talking about today. Thank you.